Now, to discuss the latest developments, let's go across to Saurabh Shukla, Editor-in-Chief, Newsmobile.in, who joins us live from Washington at the moment. Thank you so much, Mr. Shukla, for joining us. Now, Israel and Iran, the two enemies, are closer to the brink of an all-out war than ever before. These attacks, unlike others in the past, explicitly and directly came from the Iranian government and its military. Now, we're also hearing the US is speaking to Jordan. What are the latest developments you can share with us?
Well, I can tell you that hectic diplomatic parlays, back channels are on both here in Washington, D.C. and in some of the other G7 capitals. In fact, in New Delhi as well, as you said in the broadcast, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar has been proactively speaking to his counterparts in the middle of an Indian election. Clearly, everyone wants, and US and India are coordinating. I can share with your viewers very, very closely on this because they both believe that there should be de-escalation from here on. The world cannot have another war happening in the Middle East or anywhere else in the world. In any case, you are reeling under a war between Russia and Ukraine. You have a war between Israel and Hamas, and then this comes in. So the world cannot afford that. And that's a message coming from the UN Security Council as well. Clearly, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is, his stance on this entire thing is also powered by the domestic problems that he's facing. And that's a worry that many observers here in Washington, D.C. have as well, because they know that they have cautioned him that he should not escalate. They should hold on the parallel track. With the Iranians also, parleys are on to make sure that they should not escalate either. And that's the reason why you see that assurance coming from the Iranian side that they will not mount any further attacks. Clearly, there is a better sense, I hope, that will prevail in Tel Aviv as well, because Israel also cannot afford any other war at this stage, because obviously it's reeling under a crisis of sorts, and it should avoid a war. Because a war in the Middle East impacts the world, whether it's an economic impact, the humanitarian impact, that will be disastrous. And that's the reason why efforts are on today to make sure that this war can be averted. Parmeshwar?
But Mr. Shukla, many say that Mr. Netanyahu could use this Iran attack as an opportunity to do what he always wanted: hit Iran hard, drawing the US into war, and regain regional and international legitimacy. What's your take?
Well, I can tell you from my sources here at White House and also from some of the other G7 interlocutors I've been speaking to, clearly, none of them are backing Israel on that. While they have said that, yes, we will back Israel to the extent that if there is any further action, they will defend. And they were all standing with Israel. If you know that Israel was able to avert this, these missile and drones coming its way, thanks to a proactive support by the US. So they've told them that we will stand with you, but we don't want you to go and further escalate this situation. That's a clear message going from Washington to Tel Aviv. And I think Mr. Netanyahu should understand that this is not the time to escalate, and this is not the time to take on Iran either, because the world does not have an appetite for that, for clear pragmatic reasons. Parmeshwar?
Right. Despite pressure from US sanctions, though, we can't ignore the fact that Iran does have quite an extensive array of weapons at its disposal. But the key question here then, Mr. Shukla, though, is whether this all drags in the United States, leading to a full-scale shooting war between Iran and the US forces in the region.
Well, that's what they want to avoid. They're very clear that while the US has said clearly that if their assets are hit, if there is a direct attack by Iran or Iranian proxies, that includes groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, if there is a direct attack, certainly US will resort to counter measures. But the way what I'm trying to tell you is there is a back channel effort happening with Iran as well to make sure that they see the reason, because obviously Iran also realizes that in a war situation it's not going to emerge victorious, because there are very few countries which are standing with Iran at this moment. This is the message that came out of External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar's conversation with his Iranian counterpart as well, that you should exercise restraint. You should make sure that the situation is not escalated, because a war is not going to be good for anyone. And obviously for India, which has clear strategic stakes in the region, It also wants that it stands with countries like the US to make sure that there is a solution, a diplomatic solution of this crisis. Parameshwar?
Indeed. Mr. Shukla, though, do you believe that by launching this midnight attack on Israel, the Iranians are telling their rivals that they indeed are ready to escalate the shadow war into an open conflict?
Well, the Iranian argument is that this was a response to the Israeli attack on its,
Damascus.
the Damascus attack by Israeli forces. And clearly they wanted to send a message that, listen, we are here and we will retaliate. And post that, they have obviously, any attack was unwarranted. They were also being told that don't escalate the situation, hold on. But certainly there are internal dynamics. The fact that Revolutionary Guards, their members got killed in these attacks, there was pressure on the Iranian leadership as well to respond. They've done that. Good thing is that these attacks were averted. So the message is gone. From here on, I think it makes, ample sense for them as well, ample diplomatic sense, because if Iran has to get some kind of a, it obviously has got international condemnation, but it has to avoid any further coercive measures by the global community. It has to stand down. And I think that message is being conveyed very strongly from Washington, and that message is being understood. This is my understanding in Tehran as well.
Right. You've been emphasizing on the rising tension between Iran and Israel that's closely being watched by New Delhi, by India. Any escalations also likely to have a significant economic impact, don't you believe?
Absolutely. Whether it's the oil prices, whether the trade route, that India is currently in the midst of negotiations to make sure that Indian sailors are set free, because Iran has seized the vessel in which Indian sailors are there. All that will have a major impact. Any war will also mean that there will be disruption in aviation. Some airlines will be forced to divert, their routes. All that has a huge economic impact. India has a huge diaspora in the Middle East. Certainly at this moment when India is in the middle of an election, certainly they don't want a big digression coming its way where India has to resort to, another evacuation mission, which will be obviously will also mean more economic pressure on the government of India as well.
In fact, when the Israel-Hamas war broke out, oil prices soared and threatened to breach the $100 a barrel mark. And now Iran's attack on Israel seems to be adding fuel to the fire. As always, Mr. Shukla, thank you so much for your time.